It was here at the Carolco Studios in Wilmington, North Carolina, that actor Brandon Lee was filming The Crow. Ironically, the film is about a man who dies and comes back to life to avenge his death.
This is All Things A's with Garrett, and I'm Garrett. We're in Wilmington, North Carolina. Behind me is the Screen Gem Studios. In a few days from now, it's going to be March 31st. 30-year anniversary of when Brandon Lee was shot on the set of The Crow. The Crow was filmed right behind me, actually in stage 4. It's down a little bit, but he died of a gunshot wound. It was supposed to be a prop gun. He was shot right here, and I'm going to go over in celebration of his life. We're going to talk about the last day of his life and about where things happened. We'll go to the hospital. We're going to go to a few other locations here around town, but I just wanted to celebrate Brandon Lee and what he meant to us. Sawyer's with me, and Sawyer's a big fan of The Crow and of Brandon Lee, and so we're gonna cover all the locations of his last day. We're in front of the Greystone Inn. This is one of the locations where Brandon Lee lived while his time here filming The Crow. It looked like that he had stayed in several different places while he was filming The Crow here, but this is definitely one of the places that he stayed. And there's actually the room he stayed in actually was possible that they used that as inspiration for one of the scenes in The Crow. But we're going to look at several of the locations that I know of to where he lived here in Wilmington while he was filming The Crow. So this is 101 South 2nd Street, but it used to be called the Inn at St. Thomas Court. Sawyer has confirmation from a chiropractor who worked on Brandon Lee. Went to this location, used to be an inn several times, and he worked on his back and his body here at this location. We just left Greystone Inn, and I'll show you how close it is to there. So from this angle right here, the St. Thomas Court Inn, and it most likely, I don't know which room he used, but most likely you can imagine he probably used one of those rooms right up there. And behind this building is where the Greystone Inn is located. And actually looking here, all this here was probably the inn at St. Thomas Court. Looks like it's all got the same feel to it. So it could have been, any of these rooms here. Sometime maybe we'll look in exactly, see about which we can find out which room he actually used. But talking to Dale and to Sawyer, we believe, it looks like somebody else mentioned that he had a place over, he also got a place over at Wrightsville Beach, which is a very popular thing for actors who stay in the area. So he stayed in multiple locations, but I know that he stayed here close to the time that he died. I don't know if this is exactly the place or not, but this is a strong possibility. So I'm at Wilmington Marketplace, and this is a shopping center strip mall right here in Wilmington. And back in the 90s, there's a business in here called Fitness Today, and it was at 127 South College Road, and I'm not sure which unit where the Fitness Today was located in 1993, but this Brandon Lee would come here and work out prior to going to the studio to film. And he stopped in the day on March 30th, 1993, and worked out prior to going to the studio, and talked to the owner, Lewis Davis. Lewis Davis, in the article with Entertainment Weekly, had stated that he came in, they talked to him, he had a relationship with Brandon, that they talked, and he was excited about the filming was almost done, and he talked about that it was a lot of easy filming coming up, and then he talked about his wedding to his fiance. All this is documented in the Entertainment Weekly article that came out in April following his death. But his last day alive here was March 30th. He stopped by here, Fitness Today, and then goes on to the studio. Soundstage 4. We are just half a mile from UNC Wilmington's campus, but right from here onto the studio. So there were several news organizations, and back in the 90s, this is when Entertainment Weekly, Inside Edition, all these like 30-minute like news, entertainment, investigative stories started popping up on TV, and everybody was covered Brandon Lee's death. They filmed The Crow in stage 4 right behind me, and Craig Rivera from Inside Edition was right here. He was right where I was when I did the introduction video. But this right behind me is right where Brandon Lee took the gunshot It was supposed to be a prop gun, but instead a part of the bullet from the 44 got stuck in the barrel of the gun. And so when they put in a blank bullet into the chamber, when Michael Massey, the actor, pulled the trigger, and it was supposed to be just a regular prop gun set, whatever, it exploded. It sent the bullet out and hit Brandon Lee right in the abdomen, and he went down just the way it was supposed to be in the scene.
Some believe a piece of a prop bullet without gunpowder in it may have been left accidentally in the gun. When the blank was fired at Brandon, some feel it shot out the prop bullet, mortally wounding him.
But then after a few seconds later, people realized something was seriously wrong.
Sarah Seidman, a stand-in, was there when it happened.
When Brandon didn't get up, everyone was stunned because in the scene he was supposed to fall down and be mortally wounded. So, I mean, the actors went on with the scene. They didn't know until the director said, cut. Nobody knew. And then when the medic looked at Brandon and he was right in there. He said, Brandon, you're all right? And he wasn't. He was really pale.
And that's when they went to him. He was taken to New Hanover Regional Hospital.
5 hours of surgery at this hospital could not save the life of 28-year-old Brandon Lee.
Entertainment Tonight did a segment on the Brandon Lee shooting and death. And it starts out like this, up close of New Hanover Regional Hospital, and zooms out, and Lisa Givens is talking. She says, even 5 hours of surgery couldn't save his life. This is where he was brought. This is where they took him after he was shot. He arrived here a little after 1 a.m. on March 31st. Entertainment Tonight tells us that he had over 5 hours of surgery. Entertainment Weekly says that at 1:04 p.m. he was pronounced dead. His fiance had flown in from LA, and she was here and by his side when he passed. So a lot has changed. This hospital had a makeover several years back, so it doesn't look exactly the same, but it's the same hospital. Brandon Lee was in surgery for over 5 hours. He had 60 pints of blood through transfusion. They said that was the equivalent of 3 grown men of blood given to him. He never regained consciousness, and he was in an air unit when he passed. This is where they found the 44 bullet in his abdomen. That's where that's so much damage hit his spine, and they were trying to stop the bleeding. They never could get the bleed. They could never get it to hemorrhage. This here is where he was pronounced dead at 1:04 p.m. on March 31st.
Mr. Lee's heart stopped, and efforts to resuscitate him were unsuccessful.
Wednesday afternoon, Brandon Lee was pronounced dead. The autopsy revealed some shocking information.
A .44 caliber bullet was removed from Lee's body. Detectives are proceeding with the investigation.
He was fatally injured on the set of his latest movie, The Crow.
So back in the fall of 1993, I attended UNC Wilmington. That's when I first came to Wilmington. Well, Brandon died March 31st, 1993, just a few months prior to me coming to Wilmington. Well, my friend Chris, who you know from the Midnight Movie Snap podcast, we do the podcast together. When Chris first came to visit me in Wilmington, one of the first places that we came to was right here. It was called Carolco Studios back then. And we love Brandon Lee. And I just want to and this is one of the reasons why I want to do this video is because like we came here, and even though it had been a few months and everything had already passed, we just wanted to like come be close by to where where he was shot. And it was just like, and even though he didn't die in stage 4, he was shot here on the studio. And we drove all around this studio trying to, I don't know what we were trying to do. I mean, really, I don't. I asked Chris the other day about this, and we were like going, I don't know what we were doing. We just drove around. I don't know. We thought we were going to sneak in. I don't know. I don't remember what my 19-year-old self was saying at the time. But here we were, we came, and we just needed, and I don't know, it's the same reason that people go to like memorials and light a candle and leave flowers. Maybe it's something like that, maybe. But for us, we just wanted to just be near this place. And so now being 30 years later, I'm back, and I just want to, and for this video, I just really want to honor Brandon Lee, and not try to sensationalize, even though it's been 30 years, it's really not much, it's not much to sensationalize. But still, I just kind of wanted to honor him in his last days here. And of course, Sawyer is he's a huge Crow fan. And since, like this is where it happened, I just want to, talk about that. I watched Rapid Fire the other day, and he was so good in that. And I think with Brandon Lee, I think he just resonated more than just his father being Bruce Lee, but the fact that he was a star, he was an up-and-coming star, and he just had that kind of charisma about him. I would have loved to have seen what he would have became as an actor. And so it's a shame that that kind of accident, negligence happened right here in the studio, right here on the set.
Let's face it, at this point in my career, I don't have a wide body of work for people to be familiar with. Therefore, it doesn't strike me as particularly strange that their first expectation or opinion of me would be based upon what they do know, which is that I'm Bruce Lee's son. But it's not a particular hardship or anything, you know. In fact, I think it's something of an asset.
Brandon Lee utilizes those assets well in Rapid Fire, the 20th Century Fox action-adventure in which he not only stars but also worked closely with Jeff Amata to choreograph all the fight sequences.
Earlier last week, there was a sense of relief on the set of The Crow. The cast and crew had weathered all of the bizarre accidents, and there was only a week or two left of filming. According to the executive producer, all of the stunts were in the can.
I think back in the 90s when this had 10 was not there, and you could see there was a back. Also, stage 4 is where Empire Records, the interior of the record store, was shot there. Keith Coogan told me that in Hiding Out, that his bedroom scene was filmed. That was a set. It was built here in stage 4. But back then, stage 10 didn't exist, and stage 10 is where the house was recreated in Scream 5, which is what I call Scream 2022, and they rebuilt Stu's house in stage 10. But I used to be a backlot back in the area back over there. And for those of you who love Scream, that's behind stage 10 is where Dewey's trailer was in Scream 5 as well. Right here in the stage 4 is where Brandon Lee took that shot. The gunshot right there. So I was saying how Chris and I walked around, walked around this whole perimeter back in '93, the fall. But this also reminds me of the fact of, I think we could talk about, just for a second, this is not about trying to go into the details of the accidents, negligent behavior that caused this death, but thinking about Helena Hutchinson, who just lost her life in 2021, which brought up all these old memories of what happened that happened here at Screen Gems, which is then in Carolco. But tragically, I mean, she lost. It's almost the same scenario. It was a 45, not a 44. Two different, but the same kind of thing happened. It was like they used the word prop gun, but it's not a prop gun. It was a real gun, and that's something that I think when they use that in magazine articles or even in interviews on TV, it makes people believe that a prop gun, that is something that it is not, and these are real live weapons. The bullets were supposed to be changed. Bullets were supposed to be, both sets had horrible, let me just say again, horrible decision making. People cut corners, obviously. Inside Edition talks about right here, talking about that things were not great on this set for The Crow. And obviously things the same way were happening on the set of Rust. And that's just shouldn't happen. And that's why Shannon, his sister, and his fiance have put out tweets about things need to be changed, things need to be different, and I totally agree. We do not need to be repeating history again and again. If we don't change it, we're going to keep repeating it. I'm going to mention Scott on Tape, and this is perfect because a plane's going overhead and right above the studio, and I'm talking, and I want to mention Scott on Tape. Scott on Tape covers the graves of Bruce Lee and Brandon Lee. And Brandon's middle name is Brandon Bruce Lee, by the way. Bruce died at 32 and Brandon died at 28. Both tragically way too young for both of them. But I wanted to just mention that even though Brandon died here in Wilmington, he's buried in Seattle, Washington. And Scott on Tape has a nice tribute video of the graves of both. Brandon's buried next to his father on the right-hand side, and it's one of the top 10 grave sites in the world that's visited every year. And so watch that video. I think it's just a great tribute to to Bruce and to Brandon, and I just wanted to say that. And when I say that, it's like in that video, Scott is talking, and there's a plane going overhead, and that happens to us. I was over yesterday at a black phone location, and the plane was going overhead. That just happens that way.
Something is terribly, terribly wrong here, and either, you know, somebody's trying to murder him or there's some kind of gross negligence.
No matter what caused Brandon Lee's tragic death, it's another serious blow to the Lee family.
Well, Brandon is being buried next to his father in Seattle. That was Bruce Lee's home for a while during his college years.
So we're at Colonial Park Apartments here in Wilmington, North Carolina. This is where I lived when I first moved to Wilmington in 1993. So I'm standing I lived in the upper corner apartment right there. And I was thinking about the way how I was going to end this video, and I just wanted to, and I didn't want to end it at the hospital, even though that's where Brandon took his last breath, and that's where his heart stopped beating. But I wanted to, this is when I came to Wilmington and with a lot of hopes and dreams and starting college, a lot of things here in life, and I didn't want to end the video at the hospital just in the sense of that, but I just wanted to end it here because this is where my college life really truly began, and this is where I met a lot of great friends and a lot of good friendships over the years, and still have a lot of those great friendships and things right here. And I just wanted to, like I said, to honor Brandon and his life. To me, being here is kind of symbolic of where I began, you know, my life in Wilmington, and I just want to hopefully that you enjoyed this video. I think if you're watching this, if you're a fan of Brandon Lee, you're a fan of maybe his father Bruce Lee, and just in his movies and everything else. And I just want to, I hope you've enjoyed it. If you're interested, you know, please hit the like button, hit subscribe if you want to follow more content with me. Check me out on Instagram and TikTok. You know, videos and stuff there as well. I hope you've enjoyed this video, this trip down memory lane, and just to remember the life of Brandon Lee. But again, thank you for watching All Things 80s with Garrett, and I'll see you on the next episode.